Get ready. You're listening to Give God 90 live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
There we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Give God 90. We are live on a Thursday night. It is absolutely a pleasure to have each and every one of you with us. We thank you for joining us. And it is Christmas Eve in most of the world.
There we go.
Some places it's not anymore, but it is here. And we're going to look at that just a little bit, but not much. Don't expect a whole lot of people to join us on Facebook tonight because of that. Although there may be some people sneak in here that need to hear this, so that's always a good thing. But for all the folks who might be listening out there on the podcast, we certainly appreciate each and every one of you. And because of... Oh, somebody snuck in. I see that. But because of all of the things that are going on, I wanted to do what I'm going to do tonight earlier in the year. And a good friend of ours, a PhD doctor, she's been dealing with, I think she is a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, right?
Right.
Okay. She has 51 years of experience. She knows the emotional aspects and the physical aspects of what we're going to talk about. I know the spiritual aspects of what we're going to talk about, but things just didn't happen. So you're probably going to hear this again, hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe several weeks now, but we'll try and put something together because this is important. But before we get into all of that, excuse me, let me remind you. Yes, you're trying to keep me on track. You can go to givegod90.com. Check us out there. We're on Facebook, currently Facebook Live at the same time we're doing the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Where else are we? Oh, we're all still on YouTube. We haven't been kicked off of there yet. You can find us on MeWe. You can find me on Parler. And we're on Twitter as well. So we're all over the place. Contact us the best way, get up with us the best way you know how. We're out there. We're available. Like I said, I really would like to have had Dr. Gale come in and give me a hand with this tonight, but it just didn't work. She had things she was doing. I had things I was doing. But this needs to be out there. And I wanted to do it tonight because specifically it really does impact the wintertime celebrations. No matter what culture you're from, no matter what religion you're from, it impacts everybody. So, what I want to start out is with one verse from Jeremiah 17. It says, I, the Lord, search the heart. I test the mind to reward a man according to his way, by what his deeds deserve. Now, there is so many lessons in that verse. I could go on for a long, long time, but I won't. All right? Let's just take it for what it is and where I'm going with this here. Jeremiah records the Creator making his distinction between the heart and the mind. Okay? He says there is a distinction between heart and mind, and I'm going to add one more in there, and that is spirit. Now, what drives us to change the things that our Creator has already established? Now, some are going to say, well, it's sin or it's our fallen nature, that kind of thing. But it's much different than that. Sin and fallen nature might have something to do with it, but not always. Excuse me. I got something going on in my throat tonight. I don't know what it is, but probably what we had for supper. Those were good collard greens, by the way. If we look at the end of Genesis 2 and the beginning of Genesis 3, it says that both the man and his wife were naked, but they felt no shame. And that the serpent was the most cunning of all of the animals that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, did God really say, you can't eat from any tree in the garden? Now, I have used this comparison quite a bit in the last few weeks, right? Because I want everybody online, or everybody to get on board with this and understand that Adam and Eve were content until the serpent spoke to Eve. Mm-hmm. Right? They were doing their thing. They were doing what they were told for, a few minutes, right?
Right.
So, they had settled spirits. Everything was in conjunction. Everything was supposed to be everything was the way it was supposed to be, the way it was designed to be. Their hearts, their minds, their spirit, everything working in conjunction for them to be who they are and content doing the things they were supposed to be doing. Make sense?
Right.
They knew, they understood what the Creator was offering. They were content. And it wasn't until that outside influence, until the serpent speaks to Eve, that her spirit became uneasy. Now, why did her spirit become uneasy? Because, and this is going to sound a little Far Eastern mumbo-jumbo-ish here, but it really isn't, and I'll show you this in a second. It is because now, when she has to question what she knows, she knew what God said, right? Mm-hmm. She was emotionally content, but now all of a sudden there is this conflict between my mind is questioning what I know. My mind is questioning what the Spirit's telling me is true. Did God really say? And she begins to get into a lot of trouble, right?
Right.
Okay. Think about it this way. Children today suffer much the same thing. They hear from their, and I don't want to say parent all the time because it's not always parents, but they hear from trusted adults about mythical things like Santa or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy as if they're real. And then these children begin to mature. And they find out those mythical creatures were not the wonderful, gift-giving, money-giving, candy-offering things that they thought they were. They, have to realize and understand that these young spirits have to justify that their mind and their hearts have been trained to consider one thing as truth by people they trusted, and now they find out they're fiction. Mm-hmm. How tough can that be? They realize they were lied to, right? Now, Eve wasn't lied to. The serpent didn't lie to her. He just asked her a simple question. But that began in her a conflict that made what she knew and what she felt out of sync, so to speak. It took that spirit out of contentment and into conflict with what was going on. And this can affect emotions. It can affect you physically, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a dangerous thing to a dangerous place to be, I should say. Now, adults don't even know the truth. Hey, there's Carol's joining us on Facebook. Good to see you. Having a hard time hearing us. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I'm looking and I don't see that on, but it could be. I'll speak up a little bit. Adults don't even know what's true part of the time. Is it okay? Okay. Might want to check things on your end, Carol, because Myra's checking hers and she says it's okay. Adults don't even know what's going on in the world. But yet, they're teaching children to believe in fairy tales, right? What's the Bible have to tell us about this conflict between spirit and the other parts of our being? If you want to start in Genesis, there's a couple of different ones, and go ahead and read the where they're from.
Genesis 2, 6 and 7. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living soul. Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Proverbs 15:13. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones.
Okay. Now, don't get confused when we talk about mind, body, and spirit being separate. Okay? Remember, when we define words, we need to be consistent. And part of the confusion comes when Scripture isn't, or I shouldn't say Scripture isn't, translations are not consistent. Some translations treat the heart as spirit, while others treat the mind as spirit, but in reality, the spirit is separate from the heart and the mind. It's different. More on that in a second. Ecclesiastes 12:7 says that then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit return unto God who gave it. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. It should sound familiar. Here's another passage that says pretty much the same thing. It comes from Psalms 31, 1 through 5.
Lord, I seek refuge in you. Let me never be disgraced. Save me by righteousness. Listen closely to me. Rescue me quickly. Be a rock of my refuge, a mountain fortress to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. You lead and guide me because of your name. You will free me from the net that is secretly set for me, for you are my refuge. Into your hand I entrust my spirit. You redeem me, Lord, God of truth.
Now, Christians should pay particular attention to this, because if you go back and you read this in Hebrew, redeem me is actually you ransom me. You pay a price for me. Okay? Why is that important? What did Yeshua say on the cross? The last thing he said? One of the last things he said? Into your hands I entrust my spirit. He didn't come up with anything new. Still hanging there on the cross, he's still teaching Genesis. Okay? Spirit is even separate from the soul. And there's actually a photograph now that I think I put it on a couple different social media places some time ago. It actually shows the exact time of conception. Okay, and there is a spark, there's a light when that soul and that spirit meet in this physical universe. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. Well, wait a minute. How can soul and spirit be the same thing if, before I knew you, and now all of a sudden I'm putting two and two together, or one and one together, and making one? That's God math, by the way. Okay? You put soul and spirit together, they make life. Okay? When spirit meets soul and life begins, there's light. Remember, let there be light, right? He's going right back to Genesis. After death, they separate. The soul goes to the place of the dead. That's where it rests until the day of resurrection. But the spirit goes back to the one who gives it. Into your hands I entrust my spirit. Technically, it's his spirit, but you know where I'm going with that, right? Because the Creator designed us this way, the spirit that is with us always knows the desire of the Creator. Now, some might refer to this as conscience, that little voice that we hear in our head. Ooh, that's what that is? Yeah, that's what that is. Hey, Kathy, glad to hear you. Because the desire is, because that desire is there, that conscience is there, that spirit is there, it's possible for the spirit to be in conflict with the mind and the heart, because the mind and the heart belong to us, right? We have our ways, The spirit belongs to God. He has his ways. The two sometimes should meet, but don't always meet. There again, my ways are not your ways, right?
Right.
And it's amazing that because our emotions and our mind are two different things, then you have this thing called spirit. Is it any wonder why we have such trouble making up our minds sometimes? Because we know what the spirit's telling us, we know what our emotions are, and we know what we think, but it doesn't always want to work together, and it needs to work together. It's funny when I speak to groups of people about the difference between their traditions and their doctrines and what they've been trained to believe, and how it's different from what the Almighty has in the Bible. I can watch their faces, and I know which people are listening to the Spirit. I know which ones are not in tune with the Spirit. I know the people that are there just because they want to be there, just because it's what they do, right? And then every once in a while you get to see the light bulb come on in somebody's eyes, and it's like, ooh, that's what that means. Yeah, how about that? They didn't even realize that they're in conflict sometimes. They don't even they know that something's troubling. They know something's not right, but they don't know what it is. Now, even when we've been lied to and trained to sin, the Spirit that sparks us to life at conception, it knows what is truth, and it knows what's a lie. And I really believe that one of the reasons there's so much depression and suicide around the time of this winter solstice and shortly thereafter is not because of what has come to be known as holiday letdown. And I really was hoping that I could have Gail here because she could speak to that. 51 years of experience, she knows this stuff. She can tell you all about the emotional aspect of it and the physical aspects of it. But what the spiritual aspect of it is, our spirit knows. The spirit that's within us knows we have allowed that false prophecy to direct us. We have allowed the unholy spirits to influence our relationship until that relationship with the Creator is divided. The heart and the mind are winning, covering up that conscience, that spirit, whatever you want to describe it, and it's trying desperately to reconnect with the Almighty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right?
I think so.
Okay. So you have this little thing in you that your heart and your mind are squashing down, saying, but everybody else is doing it. Oh, aren't those lights pretty? Oh, look at that. Oh, those presents are so nice. Look, Mom, the Tooth Fairy gave me $1 this year. You know, when I was a kid, it was a dime. That's how old I am, all right? Inflation is terrible in the fairy tale world. It really is. Think about this. If you learn to listen to your spirit instead of your heart and your mind, what you're going to find is far more comfort. Okay? You're going to be far more joyful. You're going to be overwhelmingly more pleased with yourself because you're going to be putting yourself back, not into conflict, but putting yourself back where things work the way they're designed to work. The whole concept of holiday depression doesn't come from the lack of... I'm glad Kathy just messaged us, left a comment on Facebook. It says, oh, I have to be the Tooth Fairy tonight. The whole concept of holiday depression doesn't come from this lack of sunshine, that physical thing, or change in the hormones, although we do know that in some animals, mostly the ungulates, like the deer, white-tailed deer, mule deer, and elk, the reason that they begin their breeding cycle in the fall of the year is not because of the change in temperature. It's not because of the weather's getting cooler. It's because the amount of daylight, the amount of sunlight that goes in through their eyes affects the pituitary gland, which is responsible for releasing certain chemicals and certain hormones in their body. It says, hey, it's time for you guys to go breed, right?
Right.
Okay. That doesn't explain the depression that people experience in the weeks that follow the winter solstice celebrations, because they come from every culture, every civilization, all over the world. All right, and we are made in the image of God, right?
Right.
Which puts us in a different category than the animals anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even though there are some physical things because of lack of sunlight, if you spend too much time in the dark, it does change you physically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You're not designed to spend all your time in the dark. You're not, even astronauts being weightless, when they come back, if they spent too much time up there, they have to learn to walk all over again. There's a reason that when you see them, they sit down when they come back to Earth, especially if they've been up there a long time. Because it takes time to put all that stuff back together. It takes time to put physically, your muscles have to learn how to do all the things that they should be doing. We're not designed to live in a weightless environment. It's just that simple. As much as I think it would be a really good night's sleep. No pressure points anywhere. You can sleep any position, it wouldn't matter. I think it would be a really good night's sleep. Okay. The battle inside of us, we must allow the Spirit of the Creator to win if we want to be happy, if we want to be truly joyful, right? Remember at Mount Sinai, this is going to upset some people, but that's okay. I'm going here. At Mount Sinai, the Almighty comes down, and one of the first things he says is what? Don't you dare shove any other gods in my face, right? Mm-hmm. It's right there in ancient Hebrew. That's the original text. Actually, it says, don't put no other gods in my face. Technically, most translations say, you will have no other gods before me. Whatever that means. Okay. 20 minutes after he leaves and Moses goes up the mountain, they start begging Aaron. Aaron, you got to do something. Moses has been gone 20 minutes. That's way too long. We think something happened to him. You got to do something. We need a God. Aaron, you got to do something. Aaron, do something. Finally, he backs down. He says, okay, give me all the earrings, give me all the gold out of your wives' ears and your children's ears, hoping that they wouldn't go ask for it. But they did. And according to Aaron, he threw it in the fire and out pops a golden calf, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that, right? We all know better. What did they say? They said, Israel, behold your God, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, tomorrow is a feast to the Almighty. During the time of the winter solstice, practically every culture, right, has something to do. In the United States, we have created this thing called Christmas. And it can be traced back to different aspects of it can be traced back to several different pagan ceremonies and celebrations. You can go back to Mithra, you can go back to Odin, you can go back, pick one. Moloch is another that it can go back to. Just pick one. Because what we've actually done is created a hybrid situation. We've created this golden calf. And I can say that because guess what? Where your heart is, or where your money is, there's where your heart is, right? Guess what? That's our golden calf today because everybody wants to celebrate this thing called Christmas. And it's not unique, it's worldwide. The difference is everybody celebrates it differently, right? Mm-hmm. Some people do one thing, some people do something else. But they've created this thing, and then they say, or Christians say, oh, by the way, tomorrow we're going to celebrate Jesus. The whole time, they're caught up with trees and with lights and with gifts for people they don't like and with all these other things that they're trapped into because that's where they went. Okay, where your money is, that's where your heart is. And by the way, tomorrow is a celebration for Jesus. Sounds a lot like the yellow cow to me, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, every religion, every culture, all over the world had, and I'm using that past tense, had some type of winter solstice celebration except for one. One did not. The ancient Hebrews, after Mount Sinai, were forbidden to hold any celebration in the dead of winter. Well, I shouldn't say dead of winter, because technically winter now starts on December 21st, which is the winter solstice. But you take the time period that surrounds that, the shortest day should be the middle of winter, because everything else after that changes, right? Just the way it used to be, not the way it is anymore. I think now they call it meteorological winter, begins sometime in November. Isn't that what they say? I think that's what the term they use now. Anyway, the Hebrews didn't have it. But depending on which calendar you use, either 175 or 174 BC, the Almighty offered a series of miracles to a little ragtag group of guerrilla warriors known as the Maccabees. And he gave them victory over a massive Greek army. Now, that victory was used as a winter celebration, something they had not been allowed to do up until this point. Okay? Now all of a sudden they have this wintertime celebration. It doesn't celebrate any god with a big G or a little g. Okay? What it celebrates is the rededication of the temple, giving the Spirit of our Creator the victory over our hearts and minds to rededicate ourselves to His service at that time of year when the rest of the world is actually celebrating false prophecies, false gods. It's a way that our Creator uses and offers us as a chance to deepen that relationship with Him instead of to divide it. He said, look, I know you guys are a bunch of party people. You want to party in the middle of winter? I'll give you a reason to party. You can rededicate yourselves to me. That's not quite what Christmas turned into, though, is it? Mm-hmm. That's not quite what Saturnalia turned into, is it? That's not quite what New Year's turned into, is it? To deny the world and their celebration of the rebirth of the Son, I know Christians claim they celebrate the birth of Jesus. But what do? What did Jeremiah say? I search your heart and I will judge you on your actions, is basically what he said. I will reward you for the deeds you do. Leave that one right there. See, other religions as well have their winter parties, and they suffer the same depressions as those after those celebrations are over. It doesn't matter, pick one. The suicide rate increases for about 6 to 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. Naturally occurring death, it also increases. People they hold on until after whatever whether it's Christmas or whatever the other religions celebrate, right? And then once it's over, they just kind of relax and then they pass away. Mm-hmm. Which is another thing that Gail can speak to. She's 51 years of experience. She knows this stuff. Why is that? Doctors have been looking at this. They don't know. They honestly don't know. I can tell you why. Because doctors are looking at the wrong place. Doctors are looking for the physical reasons. Mm-hmm. Even psychiatrists and psychologists, they're looking at emotional reasons, right? What you have to do is tie that into the spirit as well, because if your spirit is in conflict, your body is not working the way it's designed to work. Mm-hmm. Rededicating yourself to the Creator has no post-celebratory depression. Now, that's a fancy way of saying if you do things the way you're designed, you don't get sad. You might get angry sometimes, right? Because things aren't going to go the way you want them to go. Things are not going to be the way they seem to be the way they want to seem. Things just don't always come out the way we think they should. And that's okay, as long as they're coming out the way the Almighty thinks they should, right? Mm-hmm. Actually listening to that spirit that's in us, the conscious, if you want to call it that, your if you let that override your heart and override your mind, you don't get depressed. You understand things differently. People are going to look at you funny. Guarantee it. They just do. But it resolves the conflict that causes depression. It actually helps reduce the rapid physical decline that some people experience due to the spirit being in conflict with mind, soul, heart, body, spirit. You've got to put all that stuff together the way it needs to be put together. Because if you don't, if you just continue to be in conflict, have you ever been at odds with somebody? Do you like being around them? Do you like being close to them? How would you like to live in the same house with them? Now, I know that some of the people who hear this are going to be saying, well, he don't know. Yeah, I do. See, I know what it's like to be married, not to her, because she keeps me straight most of the time. There are sometimes, though, she leaves me unsupervised. And that's kind of tough on me. But here, think about this. Y'all know what it's like when you have a hard time getting along with somebody else. Now think about putting that whole family inside of yourself and telling them you got to get along. Because that's what you're doing. You've got your emotions, you've got your thinking mind, and you've got this little spirit in there saying, we really should do this. But your mind's saying, but I like it. It looks like fun over there. It looks more, oh, look at what they're doing. Isn't that pretty? That's that fight that's going on. That's what we have to overcome. When Paul says we don't battle against flesh and blood, we battle against the principalities. They're not always out in the air somewhere. Some of them are inside. And some of them are saying, it's fun over there. But that little voice, that still small voice that Isaiah heard, says no. I'm sorry, Elijah heard, says no. This is where we need to be. Just stay on the path. Just stay, just keep running the race. Just keep doing the things you got to do. Don't worry about what's over there to the right. Don't worry about what's over there to the left. Because if you get off this path, things might not be as smooth as you think they're going to be. There's a cartoon I watched not too long ago, and it was kind of funny because these guys were going down this road and they looked at the shortcut, and on the map, it only looked like it was, like an inch long. They said, look, that looks pretty good. But what they didn't know is the map only kind of drew a line. They didn't see all the ups and the downs. They didn't see all the holes that they were falling into. They didn't see all the other stuff that they had to get through. So sometimes that narrow path might not always be straight, but it's a lot smoother than all the ups and downs and the hills and the valleys and then all the other stuff you got to put up with. When you have to, if you've ever been on a Jeep trail in the mountains, okay, I can speak to that. I've been there. You start up this trail and you get to a point, and sometimes there's a tree that has fallen across this trail. And if you're lucky, you have something with you to cut that tree off the trail, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not so lucky, sometimes you've got a chain with you. Maybe you can throw a chain around that tree and pull it off the trail. Sometimes, if you've got to be on the other side of the tree, you have to park whatever you're driving in and walk the rest of the way. And it can be a long walk to get to where you're going. Mm-hmm. If you'd have stayed on the main line, if you'd stayed on the main road, you'd already been there. You wouldn't have to worry about the trees across the way because they just aren't there. There's provisions made to take them down, right? So don't think for a second that the short route is always the best route. Sometimes Sometimes you just have to stay wherever you're being led, as long as you're following the right spirit to lead you, and you're not thinking, ooh, I can go here on my own, all by myself. Doesn't work. Been there, done that too many times. Thank you for... Did you have anything else? No?
No.
Okay. Thank you for spending some time with us, folks. We really appreciate it. I know there's a lot of people out there that needed to hear this, and you will hear a lot of this again. I'm not sure when, though. That's the only bad part. I'm just not sure when, but there will be... We'll get it together one of these days, whenever we can. We appreciate each and every one of you. For those who are celebrating, make it a good one. Oh, thank you, Carol. You have a great rest of the evening also. As I have come up with the term this year, have a happy, and a merry bah humbug, right? So...
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks
We
for
certainly
joining
do
us.
appreciate each and every one of you.
Be
Until
safe.
next time. Yes. Be very, very safe out there. It is, I don't know about everywhere else, but here it's supposed to be kind of nasty weather. So take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. Take care.